They say the mountain doesn't exist. It doesn't appear on any official maps, no trails lead to it, no expedition is documented as ever reaching its peak. And yet, I saw it. The first time was from a distant campsite high in the Cordillera. The sky was perfectly clear, stars burning above me, and still, between the clouds, I could see a summit, colossal, shrouded in eternal snow, wrapped in a veil of black storm that never seemed to move. When I asked the locals about it, their faces changed. They didn't laugh. They didn't treat it like a silly tourist question. No, they went pale, their eyes shifting away from mine. "That mountain doesn't want to be climbed," one old guide finally whispered, his voice trembling. That was all I needed to hear. His warning didn't stop me. It fueled me. Because if no one had returned, then I could be the first. The first to set foot on a forbidden summit. The first to prove that the impossible was real. I prepared carefully. Ropes, crampons, provisions, GPS compass, everything a seasoned climber would need. But as soon as I started toward that looming silhouette, something felt wrong. The ground itself seemed to resist me. The GPS lost its signal, spinning endlessly. The compass needle shook as if caught in an unseen current, and the distance was unbearable. No matter how far I hiked, the mountain remained just as far, its peak always retreating into the storm. The weather worsened. Snow thickened in the air, biting into my face. The silence grew heavy, pressing against my ears. I could hear my own heartbeat louder than the wind, and then for the first time I heard it. A whisper. At first I thought it was just the wind cutting through the ridges, but no. The longer I listened, the clearer it became. Words, faint, human, echoing in the gusts as if someone were calling me by name. I stopped dead in the snow. The slope behind me was empty. I was alone. But the whisper didn't stop, and when I looked down at the fresh snow behind me, there were footprints. Not mine. They hadn't been there a second ago. Someone, or something, was following me. The footprints behind me weren't mine. I know how my boots dig into the snow, the rhythm of my steps, the slight outward tilt from my right foot. These prints were narrower, deeper, as though something heavier had stepped there, dragging its weight forward. I crouched, my breath steaming in the frozen air, and traced the edges with my gloved hand. The snow was still shifting, still collapsing into place, as if the steps had just been made. But there was no one behind me. I stood quickly, scanning the empty slope. White silence stretched out in every direction, broken only by the swirling curtain of snowflakes. My heart hammered against my ribs. That was when I realized the whispers had grown louder. Not carried by the wind anymore. They were around me, circling me, pressing in like a crowd I couldn't see. My name, repeated again and again, not shouted, but breathed, like someone's lips brushing against my ear. I told myself I was imagining it. Altitude sickness, hypothermia, exhaustion. Climbers had heard voices before. I forced myself to move forward, keeping my eyes fixed on the blackened storm crown of the mountain. But the mountain seemed to resist me. Hours passed, and yet the peak never came closer. I should have been gaining distance, ascending, but each ridge only led to another, higher and higher, like the summit was stretching away from me, a cruel mirage. And then the second sign came, more footprints. This time, not behind me, beside me, perfectly parallel to my own, as though someone had been walking at my side the entire time, invisible but real. I froze, the snow groaned under my weight, and when I turned, I swear I felt something brush past me in the whiteout. The air grew heavy with the smell of iron. Not blood, older, rustier, like metal corroding in the cold. I tugged my scarf tighter around my face, but the stench filled my lungs. That's when I saw the shadow, not on the snow, not in front of me. It was inside the storm itself, a darker silhouette moving against the swirling white. Too tall, too thin, its limbs stretched longer than they should be. It wasn't climbing toward the summit, it was waiting for me. I stumbled, panic clawing at my chest, and nearly slipped down the slope. My rope caught, biting into the ice, but as I steadied myself, I noticed something terrifying. The footprints weren't just behind me anymore. They were closing in from every direction, dozens of them, hundreds, circling me. The whispers turned into laughter, soft, mocking, as though the mountain itself were amused by my struggle. I wanted to run, but there was nowhere to go, so I did the only thing I could. I kept climbing. Even as I realized, the mountain wasn't letting me ascend, it was pulling me in. I don't remember how many hours passed, or days. Up here, time isn't real. The storm erases it. All I know is that I kept moving upward, or at least I thought I was. My legs burned, my lungs screamed with every breath, but the summit never drew closer. It hovered above me, always just beyond reach, like a dangling bait I was too desperate to ignore. The laughter had stopped. That was worse. Silence had settled again, but it wasn't empty. It pressed against me, suffocating, like the storm itself was listening, waiting. At last, the ground leveled out. My heart leapt. I'd reached a plateau, maybe even the summit. My boots crunched on hard-packed snow as I pulled myself over the final ridge. But when I stood, my breath caught in my throat. There was no summit, only ruins. Black stones jutted out of the snow, arranged in a crude circle, half buried by centuries of ice. Symbols were carved into them, the same strange markings I'd glimpsed on the lower slopes, but here they pulsed faintly, glowing through the frost. The snow didn't touch them, it swirled around as if repelled. And in the center of the circle, a pit, a hollow in the ice, so dark it seemed to swallow the light itself. From within came the whispers again, not scattered or distorted now, but clear, unified, like a single voice split into thousands. It was calling me. I stumbled forward, unable to stop myself. My hands trembled as I reached the edge and peered down. What I saw, I can't describe it. Not fully. Faces. Hundreds of faces, frozen into the ice, their eyes open wide, mouths twisted in silent screams. Some looked ancient, their features worn smooth, while others looked fresh, recent. Their lips still red, their skin cracked but not decayed. And then I saw one face I recognized, my own. I staggered back, choking on air that suddenly felt too thin, too sharp. My boots slid on the snow, and for a moment I thought I'd fall straight into the pit. But the mountain wasn't finished with me yet. The ground beneath me shuddered. The ruins groaned like bones grinding against each other, and out of the pit, something began to rise. Not a creature, not entirely. A shape made of storm and shadow, its body shifting and breaking apart like smoke, but its eyes, those were real. Black voids that pulled at me, dragged my thoughts, my very will, toward them. The voices surged. They weren't whispering anymore, they were screaming. A chorus of the lost, demanding that I join them. I ran. Or thought I did. My legs carried me down the slope, but every step only led me back to the ruins, back to the pit. No matter which direction I turned, I ended up in the same place. The mountain wasn't a place, it was a prison. And now, I think I'm part of it. Because as I speak these words, I can feel the snow closing over my face. I can feel someone else climbing behind me.